Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Luke. In today's video I'll be unboxing and giving you my first impressions of Coromandel from Chanel. We have a bit of an Eastern inspired Oriental theme, which is fitting because this fragrance is an Oriental ambery scent and a very rich and opulent one. So you do get 2 free samples with each order, and you also get a complimentary sample of the fragrance that you bought, so we can try it before you commit to unboxing the bottle. And I shall be trying it just now, so let me spray it on my skin. Oh my goodness, this is just magical. Dry, bitter, aromatic, but resinous, ambery, rich, patchouli. It's a bit scratchy in the opening, but I really love it. I did have a sample a few years ago and I used it up, and I'm so glad I bought it. Oh my goodness, this is gorgeous. This is probably my favorite patchouli fragrance of all time. Wow, it's just magical. I can't wait to play around with this one a bit more and to do a full review. So if you're interested in my full review of this fragrance, keep on watching. So first of all, let's go over some general information about this scent. It was originally launched back in 2007 as an eau de toilette, and it's important to note that this was the first new release in the Les Exclusifs line since the 1920s, when Chanel released the original 4, Cuir de Russie, Bois des Îles, Numéro 22, Gardenia. So this was a massive release for Chanel back in 2007. Fragrantica lists Jacques Polge as the perfumer, which is correct, but incomplete because several other sources also list Christopher Sheldrake, who's also said to have co-created this with Jacques Polge. And it's also said that Olivier Polge, Jacques Polge's son, was his assistant. In 2019, Olivier, I believe, tweaked this scent and created the pure perfume. And a few years prior, in 2016, the EDPs of Les Exclusifs were released, replacing the EDTs. The one I have is the EDP, the current formula. It retails for €250 for 75 ml, or about $350 for the same size, subject to change of course, as Chanel prices keep going up. The scent is described as an amber woody fragrance or oriental woody, but there's more, much more to it. But first, let's talk about the history and art for a moment, because with a perfume like this, there's just so much to unpack. It's a real mythological fragrance. So what does this perfume evoke for me? What does it feel like? This scent feels like an echo of the original Opium and other grand Orientals of the 1970s and 1980s. However, it's blended in a modern way. It's a modern ambery Oriental scent with a vintage vibe, a modern impression of a classic Oriental. It doesn't have the bite or the spiciness of Opium or even cocoa if we talk about Chanel perfumes, but it does have that musky mustiness and sourness that just screams vintage perfumery to me. It's a perfume from two worlds that at the same time transcends time, which is evidenced in the fact that in 2025, almost 20 years after its launch, it's still a classic. Actually, it was a classic already when it was released because it evokes two artistic themes, the Coromandel screens and the vintage Oriental. And you see, art always references itself, it always copies, it's always inspired by something. So while this is a resinous ambery patchouli scent, and it doesn't really smell of lacquer or plastic, it was still inspired by the Coromandel screens in Coco's apartment. And it's also very patchouli heavy. So another tradition or reference for this scent is the hippie movement. Patchouli oil was their scent of choice, and Coromandel does have that hippie patchouli, although it's blended in an expensive Chanel-esque way. But at its core, this is a hippie patchouli, an overdose of patchouli, and it does remind me of my favourite hippie patchouli scent, Reminiscence Patchouli. Indeed, Coromandel is in the same family, although it's maybe patchouli's bougie sister, if we were to compare them. Another theme this perfume evokes for me is obviously the Orientalism, the fascination with everything from the Middle and the Far East. And this is a view that can be problematic in 2025 because Orientalism is now likened to cultural appropriation. But if we try not to be overly politically correct or offended all the time, maybe we could simply see and appreciate the inspiration. And if you know anything about Coco's life, you know that she was an art collector. She really had an eye for fine art. And it is said that she owned all of 32 of these black lacquered Coromandel screens used as dividers in her apartment. And they're very intricate and spiritual even. And it's said that her lover, Boy Capel, was the one who introduced her to this art form. This was already back in the 1910s, and she was so fascinated that she started collecting them. At the time, the West was indeed still fascinated by the Orient, which started back in the 19th century probably, or even further back. It was an endless source of artistic inspiration. The screens evoke lyrical images of mythical China and the Coromandel coast of East India, from where these screens departed for Europe, hence the name. I won't be analysing the scenes depicted on these screens, otherwise we'd be making a documentary, not a perfume review, but I want to focus on what the screens meant for Coco. She changed dwellings and moved all the time, and she took the screens with her. They moved with her, and I believe they were one of the most important sources of inspiration, symbolism, and mysticism in her life as they continue to inspire us. And they really are breathtaking. You can look them up online. Let's talk about Coromandel as a perfume, as a scent, without romanticizing it too much, even though I want to because I love it and I love the history behind it, but let's try to stay objective. When I spray this fragrance on, I really get a burst of citrus. I also pick up on something aldehydic and a hefty dose of sweetness. 5 minutes in, the patchouli becomes dominant and stays dominant for the duration of this perfume until it dries down and fades away. I do think this is incredibly well blended, so it's hard to distinguish different nuances. But I'll try anyway, because with complex scents, you have to wear them for a long time to fully understand them. One accord I pick up is a dry, green, hay-like accord, but it's very fleeting. This scent, as soon as the citrus fades, becomes a sweet, resinous delight with earthy patchouli, a sprinkling of white chocolate that gives it its distinct sweetness, and also a very hefty dose of what I would call a grainy, textured musk. Chanel is all about the musk. A heavy, musky base is a signature of so many Chanel fragrances, and this one has it too. I don't really pick up on the incense, but I will say that two other words that come to mind while smelling this scent, and I actually wrote them down, is musty and sour. Yes, this scent makes me think of musty and sour. And don't get put off immediately because, this does have this very nice vintage mustiness that we all love. That, perfumes used to have this accord when lots of different notes are used and the overall effect just smells a bit like mothballs maybe a bit like a cedar closet, do you know what I mean? And some people say, this smells like a wet towel. I beg to differ. To me, this is extremely luxurious, elegant, and opulent. And that vintage mustiness only adds sophistication to it, because vintage perfumes do not smell clean. They have animalic notes, they have musks, they have different woody notes, oak moss. They don't smell clean. They might be soapy and aldehydic, but they don't smell clean. Even Chanel No. 5 has that almost indolic, almost at times poopy jasmine. It really does. And if you're a vintage lover, you know what I'm talking about. When I smell this perfume, I just want to put on my Sunday best and go out on the town, even though the nightlife in my town is completely dead, but still, this makes me want to dress up, get ready and go out. But sometimes it also makes me want to lie down, meditate and reminisce about all the events, all the concerts I've been to, because this, if I go to a concert again, I will wear this, maybe just 3 or 4 sprays, not to overdo it, because this is a very strong scent. And it also seems to be very polarizing. Some people really hate this one. They say it smells damp, moldy, earthy, but that's the magic of it to me. I'm really partial to a patchouli scent. I'm a patchouli addict. I love patchouli, and I really love this scent to bits. I'm talking less and less about the performance of perfumes in my videos because it's not as important to me anymore. And as I listen to reviews, mostly from male reviewers, they talk about, nothing but performance. Everything has to be beast mode. I'm kind of cringed out by the terminology, so I think I'll talk about the longevity and sillage in a different way. I like a scent that lasts and doesn't disappear in 5 minutes, but I also don't want it to last 24 hours because, we've got things to do. And yes, I do have some real vintage stinkers, some real vintage bombs in my collection that I used to love and wear. I did 10 sprays at a time, but now I usually, wear them by spraying just 1 spray on the back of my hand and enjoying the perfume before bed. Youth Dew is one of them, for example. I do still wear it out, but that's beside the point. Back to Coromandel. This one lasts about 10 hours on me, 5 hours of good projection. It's by no means a beast mode scent, but it's a solid perfume, a good performer. Anytime you wear it, you will smell it on yourself and others will notice it. Although I don't really wear perfume for other people, I just wear it for myself. This perfume was a gift from me to me. I decided to finally buy it, to finally get myself something more expensive that I've wanted for a very long time, and I deserve it. So please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm looking forward to chatting with you in the comments. Take care. Bye.